Virtual World Tour with Skype in the Classroom continues with virtual field trip to Wind Cave National Park, United States of America to explore an ancient maze cave. There is recording of the whole session for those who could not attend the meeting.
We certainly can. We might also, looks like a couple of them are starting to add in now. We could either wait on the call or we could restart it in 3 minutes. It's up to you.
Okay. They are joining.
Okay. How many students do you have?
Around 20-25. And they are from 5th to 9th grade. They are mixed age groups.
Gotcha. So today we're going to do the cave and tomorrow we're going to do the prairie. Right?
Pardon?
Today we're going to do the cave program and talk about the cave.
Yes.
And tomorrow we're going to talk about the cave.
Yeah.
And tomorrow is an hour later, correct?
Yes, 9 o'clock, according to my time, 9 p.m.
Yeah, I didn't know that time zones went on the half hour because it's 9:30 my time, 9:30 a.m. my time.
Okay. And for yesterday, I'm very sorry because, it just slipped out of my mind. So it was really very embarrassing because you were on time and you were ready. I was not ready.
It's perfectly fine. Things happen. I'm glad that we have the flexibility to move it around, so it's really okay. Oh, and they're already all muting themselves. Wow. They've done this before, huh?
Yeah, they are doing it. I think it's the 21st or 20th Skype session.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
Since April 2020, since the lockdown.
Someone's taking pictures. So where else have you Skyped with? So you're doing all over the world?
Yes. Mostly in USA because there are many Skype stations from USA, and some are from. We have attended some from Israel, Greece, but they are very few.
Very cool.
Mostly from USA only.
Gotcha. Awesome.
Okay, I'll just give some instructions to my students and then we will start. Okay. All of you, nobody will take this screenshot. Okay, I had made it clear. Nobody will take the screenshot and nobody will off the camera. Okay, I want all of your camera on because we need to understand whom we are speaking with. And please mute your microphones, all of you. Please mute your microphone. Okay. So I'm Pramod from India, and I would like to know your good name, please.
My name is Lori.
Okay. So I think we can start now.
Okay. All right. Well, good evening, everybody. It's evening for you, and it's morning here for me in the United States. Welcome to Wind Cave National Park, our virtual field trip today. I am Ranger Lori, and I work for an agency called the National Park Service. So the symbol behind me is pretty important to the job that I do. And it's so important I wear it on my shirt every single day. It means that this is what I am working to protect. So what does that actually mean, working to protect? So if we look at this, we actually have animals. And so there's different animals in different areas of the country, just like there are all over the world. So here at Wind Cave, we do have bison. We wouldn't necessarily protect bison out on a seashore on the ocean, the same way we won't protect sea turtles out on the prairie at Wind Cave. So we like to say that we protect native wildlife. So it's wildlife that is suited and adapted to a specific area. And the same goes for plants. So we have sequoia trees on my symbol here. That means that we are going to protect all plant species. And it sounds like tomorrow we're going to dive into that a little bit more. One of my favorite things to talk about in the National Park Service, the shape of my symbol, the arrowhead, means that we protect all historical and cultural places. And we tell a lot of stories of people around the country that maybe you haven't heard of. And we're going to talk about one of them today, or a few of them anyway, and how different people can be important to an area, even if you haven't heard about them. They are very integral to one park site. I've worked at 5 national parks across the country, and each time it's fun learning the different stories of people. I'm going to show you on a map where I'm actually located. I am in the state of South Dakota. I'm in the western part of the state over here, known as the Black Hills region. And most times when people are coming to the Black Hills region, they're not coming to see Wind Cave. They're going to drive across the prairie, and you guys can all mute your microphones. It makes it a little bit easier. I'll tell you what, if you have questions throughout the program, if you can type them in chat, that helps me because I'll check it occasionally and I can try and answer those for you, okay? So when we're driving across the prairie, most people don't realize that there's this vast cave system below them. And that's because they're usually going to Mount Rushmore National Memorial. This is also protected by the National Park Service. And most people come, some from all over the world, to come see Mount Rushmore. But we're going to focus again on this cave, on Wind Cave. So what does that actually mean? If we look at a map, we're going to talk first about how the cave formed. And I like to view it like a recipe. So if you were going to make something, let's say baking, you're going to bake. And you just dump all the ingredients into a bowl. Probably not going to come out right. You need to put them in a specific order. Well, most caves around the world are going to be the same way. There's a specific order that things have to happen to result in a cave. Let's explore that idea. So this is a Black Hills map. Again, Wind Cave is part of the Black Hills region of western South Dakota. Now, a very long time ago, about 350 million years ago, there was once a shallow sea, an ancient seabed that sat over top of all of the Black Hills. Now, we actually have evidence of that in our cave, okay? In the form of brachiopods, they're kind of like clams. We can find corals in the cave, and this is important. So we're finding evidence, and what this means is that we can tell, we can date the rock. So all of these sea creatures are very important for my first ingredient. Because that ancient seabed is my first step, they're going to actually, those sea creatures, as they die, they're going to start to layer up on the bottom of that sea floor. And when the pressure going down, it's actually creating a rock called limestone. So limestone is going to be my first ingredient in the formation of wave. So again, all of these sea creatures are evidence of that we actually find in the rock. And we have layering in the cave. So that limestone is going to be very important. So Wind Cave is known as a solution cave, okay? So that means that we're going to need some water at some point, but we need somewhere for the water to go. So we have the ancient seabed that creates my first ingredient of limestone. The next step in my recipe is uplift. So the Black Hills, the entire region, if we look at my map again, actually there is tectonic forces that we're going to push the rock up. So the highest point I'm going to draw here is going to be over here, okay? When that pushes up, that force is going to fracture that rock. Now, the fractures are going to radiate out, so just like in a circle, okay? And this is something I think is pretty cool about the cave, because if I show you my map, give me 1 second. So if I look at the map of the cave, the way those fractures were radiating out are also the same location of our cave passageways, okay? So let's go back here. So I have my Black Hills map, and the highest point is going to be near Mount Rushmore that I showed you, okay? So the different passageways those fractures in the rock from the uplift are now going to be the earliest forms of passageways, but we need something else. So here's a cross section of what the cave might have looked like, and you can see the voids here. And that means that that's now an area that water can fill in, and not just any water. So when the uplift happened and we have the cracks, we now need my second ingredient, and that's going to be an acidic water. So how does that happen? So when water hits the surface, there's probably down debris, dead insects, dead animals. What's going to happen is that the water is going to pick up the carbon dioxide within that organic matter, whatever it may be. That forms carbonic acid. The other thing is that carbonic acid, you can actually drink that. So in the form of soda, whether it's flavored water or flavored with lots of sugar and different colors, carbonic acid is soda or pop, okay? So that acidic water is going to seep through the rock, and it is actually going to dissolve the limestone. So that acidic water, this is where we get our solution cave. It's going to dissolve the limestone, expanding those fractures. So it is going to form what we now call Wind Cave. But where do we actually get our name from? So Wind Cave is known because of this natural entrance.
Sorry to interrupt you, but some students are messaging like they are not able to see the screen. Students, are you able to see the screen or not? All of you? Please unmute and tell me.
No, sir. No, sir.
Okay.
No, sir. Yes, sir. We can see.
Okay. So
No,
it is a
sir.
problem with some students. Okay, mute yourself.
No.
All of you mute yourself.
Is it possible for you to change it to speaker mode? I think you're the one that has. I'm trying to remember how I do this. Okay, if everyone can go up to the top, there is where all of the little circles are. You can click next to the name, okay, and it should have, you can either do modern grid view, you can enter full screen, or there's speaker view. So the speaker view is what you want to hit. Let's see if I can take a screenshot and send it.
Okay, maybe all of them, some of them are using the handset. So do one thing, there are circle as she's told you on the right upper corner, and where there is the name Wind Cave, just click on that circle and then you will be able to see the screen. Okay?
Oh, it's not let me do it. I was gonna try and so they're seeing each other.
Okay, can you see the screen now?
Yes.
Okay.
No, sir. No, sir.
Okay, who is not able to see the screen, please go in upper right corner. There is a name. There are circles of names. There is name Wind Cave. Please click on that circle and then you will be able to see the screen. Okay. Okay. Please go on. Sorry to interrupt you.
No worries. So this natural entrance to the cave is actually where we get our name. So there's going to be, we call.
Oh, sorry. Somebody has muted you by mistake. Sorry.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Sorry.
All right, no worries. So the barometric cave is what we're going to have an air exchange. And so if you picture blowing up a balloon, you have the air rushing in. And if you, many indigenous people in the area are actually going to find this to be a very sacred place. And so we try to respect that. We often have prayer offerings at the cave entrance and have prayer ceremonies throughout the cave. You guys can go ahead and mute yourselves. All right. So how did we actually start to explore the cave? In the late 1800s, a kid by the name Alvin McDonald, so now we're talking about people that maybe you never heard of, ended up being very important to Wind Cave history. So are they still not able to see the screen? Are they able to see this? It's looking like they can't see the screen.
Yeah, some of them are able to see, and some of them are having technical problem. I think we should go on.
Okay. So Alvin McDonald ended up keeping a diary, and he ended up mapping a lot of the cave. So he would actually bring people into the cave, and you can see here that they're dressed a little bit differently than maybe we see visitors going into the cave today. And they actually, sorry, give me 1 second. There we go. So they were going to explore the cave in a different way than we might explore today. So they actually, we find evidence of them being in the cave by signatures that we actually find. We also find evidence is they had been removing formations in the 1890s, thinking that they were going to actually be making money from that. So today the model room looks like this. That's where those, or here the photo. This is what it looked like when Alvin was taking people into the cave. And this is what it looks like now. So a little bit different. We do have an established lighting system. But how did we actually, so Alvin mapped the first 8 to 10 miles. I showed you this earlier. Now we have currently 155 miles so far. So if you look at this map, let's see if I can zoom in for us. So I'm going to highlight an area here, and I'm going to zoom in, okay? All right, so there's some silly names that come with caving. So cave explorers, when they go into an area, are going to be, they get to name a room if they're the first ones there. So like Mermaid's Resort and Jacob's Slide. What else? So there's a lot of silly room names that we have here. So what you can notice on this photo is that there's actually 3 colors. That means that there's 3 layers or levels, kind of like a 3-layer cake. So we have cavers who go into the cave, and they are going to be taking very important data, and they have to take it, they have to be meticulous. They need to take very good notes because computers don't work in the cave, radar doesn't work in the cave. So they need to make sure that they are taking very good notes, and this is what it might look like. This is called a sketch page, and they're going to be taking whether or not, let's see. So this right here means that that's an unexplored, so it is a passageway that you can, a person can fit through. You also have, there's like right in here, you're going to notice that there's different drawings for how the passageway looks. So again, part of caving is that they need to be really good sketchers, but they also have to double check each other. So this is what that looks like. One person's taking the measurement, the other one is sketching the page, then they occasionally flip-flop. Again, they have to take very detailed data so that when they come back to the surface and put it in the computer to make the map, everything is accurate. Actually looking for. So this is what Wind Cave is known for. Boxwork actually formed before the cave. And so we talked about how we're a solution cave. So what actually happened when Wind Cave was forming is that there were these tiny fractures in the rock, and they filled in with a harder mineral than the limestone. So when the acidic water was seeping in, it was actually exposing the limestone. So this formation does not grow. There are actually other formations that grow. So dripstone, kind of like stalactites or stalagmites, so this is just a smaller version of those, where they hold on to the ceiling. This would be a stalagmite because it's growing out of the floor here. We also have a formation known as frostwork. And this one requires the correct amount of water, but also just a little bit of airflow to make sure that it can grow. You can see here there's two different formations that are growing kind of on top of each other. So we have frostwork, that needle-like structure here, and then we have the rounded cave popcorn up here. Again, it's going to be different minerals in the water that form these different formations. So they have a different structure. So popcorn is rounded, and frostwork is going to be that needle-like structure. Airflow is also important when we're talking about cave formations. So while Wind Cave gets its name from the airflow at the entrance, within the cave it's pretty hard to detect. You don't really feel it. But gypsum needles, this delicate formation, are so delicate that if I were to be talking near the needles, it could actually damage them. So we have to be very careful of those. Unlike a vug, this is an air pocket geode where they can grow crystals. These are going to be very strong. So how do we actually know about these formations? Well, it takes exploration, and most of it by volunteers. So people are, they're going into the cave because this is their hobby. What I want to point out is that the water that we do have in the cave is very pure. It's crystal clear. So this is the water line where I'm drawing. Under here, this is all water, so you can see all the rocks underneath the water. So cave exploration is something that is pretty challenging because they might go through an area that looks like this, but they had to go through a spot like this. So they can, lead is 7 inches, and this is what it might look like.
Wow.
So this is when they're going down deeper into the cave. You can kind of see the different avenues they can take when they're caving. And also that there's a whole group of caving safely means that you usually take at least 4 people, so that if anything happens, again, there's no communication, cell phones don't work. So you have to be very mindful of that when you're in the cave. This area is pretty tricky. They're going to be going over water and climbing up at the same time. All right, so I'm going to draw on here to kind of show you just how complicated caving actually is. Her right leg is going down. Her left foot is up here, and she's actually going straight through a really small area to try and fit through. So it does take time to be able to get through some of these areas. So when they go down 500 feet, that means when they're coming back out, they can back out. So caving can be pretty challenging, but it's important to be able to add to the map. So I keep talking about adding to the map. Alvin McDonald mapped those first 8 to 10 miles of the cave. We're currently at mile 155. It is estimated with that airflow that we only have about 5 to 10% mapped right now. So this cave could be well over 1,000 miles eventually. It takes people going into the cave and taking that really important data to come back to the surface and put in a computer. So they do have some challenges. There is an area in the cave known as Southern Comfort, and it's a base camp. So it's a 4-day trip. So they take an entire day to get there. They explore for 2 days. Notice that this person is wearing what we call a Tyvek suit. And this area of the cave is so pristine, they're trying to keep it that way. So they want to make sure that they're reducing the human impact in an area that we consider to be wilderness. So most people think of wilderness as a vast expanse of land, but we actually have wilderness under the surface as well, which is pretty cool. The camp setup, you're going to notice that they're all on tarps. Again, they need to stay warm because the cave stays 54 degrees. So they have a lot of warm clothing on, but they're trying to reduce the impact of people in the cave. When visitors are coming into the cave, we do have a lighting system that produces algae. And so because people are the ones that put the lighting system in, our cave scientists that we have at the park will go in and remove the algae. Again, to try to reduce or minimize the impact of humans in the cave. So scientists get to study, so whether they're rangers or not, we do have a lot of outside groups that come in to research the cave. So this is Dr. Hazel Barton, and she does a lot of research on our water. We have Dr. Andreas Flitch does our airflow study. So there's a lot of current research that's going on in a cave that formed 65 million years ago. So there's a lot of unique stories that WindCave is going to be telling. And luckily for me, I get to work in a place that protects them. So if we go back to my arrowhead, we have the unique stories that we tell about Alvin McDonald and all of our researchers that are in the sources. We have a lot of staff dedicated to preserving this area. And this 155-mile cave, which is pretty cool. So do you guys, I know it's pretty tricky, but do you guys have any questions for me?
If you have any question, please write in the chat box, and then we will go through that. If you have any questions, please write in the chat box, or you can ask also. You can ask directly also. Who wants to ask? Does anybody have a question?
And if there's no questions, that's perfectly fine too.
Hello, students. Do you have any question?
Looks like someone's typing.
Shall I ask?
Okay. Yes, Drew. Drew, ask your question.
Sir, why is the WindCave a national park?
So we were actually the first national park to protect a cave in 1903. And it was because of how unique of a system it is. So the way we formed makes this the most complex maze cave in the world. And so we're trying to protect that fragile, it's not really an ecosystem, trying to protect that fragile environment. Good question.
Anybody else?
We are in
question?
I know that someone had a question of where we are. We're in the United States in what we call the Midwest. So it's actually the plains. So again, you can't really tell that when you're driving across the prairie that there is a vast cave below where you are. Sorry, I think I cut off someone else. What's your question?
Yeah. Who else has a question?
Sir, can I ask?
Who?
Can I ask?
Yes, yes. Go on.
Is there sufficient oxygen inside?
Great question. So our cavers don't have to bring oxygen in with them because of that air exchange. So that natural entrance is actually going to be providing enough air that they don't need to take oxygen with them. And lucky for us, they don't, because again, there are really small areas that our cavers have to get through sometimes. So part of the equipment challenge is that if they can't get through this tiny of a spot, it's not going to go. Great question, though. There's enough oxygen down there. We bring, in a typical day, we can bring about 1,500 people in the summer, visitors into the cave on paved routes. So some of this that I'm showing you, visitors don't do that. That's volunteer cavers who have a lot of experience. Our visitors are going to see an area that looks like this. This is a pretty typical tour route that they get to go on. But there's enough oxygen. Good question.
Okay. Any question from anybody?
Thank you,
What was
ma'am.
important for some days?
Okay. Keith, on your microphone, on your camera, and ask your question, please.
My camera is on, sir.
Okay, ठीक है. Yeah, go on.
What was importance comparatively? What was political? Any importance of political or other after some day after some years of
What is your question, Keith, exactly?
my
Keith.
question is very easy actually. I want to ask what was importance.
Behind protecting that MES cave.
No, with evolution.
With? Okay. It means human evolution.
Evolution
Human evolution.
of the cave.
Yeah, but might be she's asking what is the role of the cave in the human evolution?
Oh, so there really isn't. How do I want to answer this? For some of our indigenous people, so we have 20 associated tribes. So those are Native Americans that find this to be a sacred place. And so they believe that this is a spiritual passageway and they emerged from Wind Cave. So for some people, this is where they created from. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, that was the pretty clear answer. Actually, I have one question. Why the name MES Cave?
So the name is actually Wind Cave, but we call it a MES Cave. Let me find my map here. There we go. Okay, so this cave is a three-dimensional cave. And so what that means is that this whole area, so about 155 miles, sits below just over a square mile of land. So that means that the passageways are going to go from the surface to over 500 feet below the surface. And if you intertwine your fingers like this, that's actually what the passageways do. So if you picture like a bowl of noodles and you take tongs and you're going to stretch them out, that's kind of what these passageways look like. Giant bowl of noodles that are all intertwined and confusing. Okay. So that's why we call it a MES cave. Just like mazes, you can get lost pretty easily in this cave. So
yes, sure. Thank you. Does anybody have any question? Other question? You can directly ask. No problem.
Can you tell me names of for this cave?
yes, people get to go in the cave. And that's not what I want. This is what they're going to see. So we have paved what we call routes in the cave. So there's trails that are in the cave, and they have to go with the ranger. So they don't get to go on their own. But we do bring people in the cave. Good question.
Okay. So no more question. Okay, I think they don't have any question now.
Okay.
Am I again asking last time? Is there any question from your side?
Yeah.
Who is that?
Avnish.
Avnish. Then go on. Ask your question.
Where is the cave formed?
When?
Oh,
Or
when did
where?
the cave form? 65 million years ago.
You please repeat this.
Can you say that again?
Please repeat this.
Record this.
Avnish, please repeat your. He's asking you to repeat the sentence. What did you say?
So the cave formed 65 million years ago. So the
65 million years ago.
65 million years ago. Long time.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Who was the owner of this? Hello?
Can you say that again?
Who was owner of this?
Oh, so the National Park Service, so the federal government of the United States, but that actually means that all United States citizens own all 419 national park units. So if it has a symbol like this, that means the United States citizens own it. So it's not what we call private, it's a public cave. Just like all national parks, so like Yellowstone or Yosemite.
Any interesting story about this cave? For making.
Sorry, go on.
Any interesting story about this cave for making?
I think that just the way the exploration goes, having groups of volunteers come in is a pretty interesting and unique thing, aspect of this cave. So they have a lot of work.
Okay. So I think
Answering
they
question.
have. You have one more question? Do you have time? Or,
I have time for one more question.
Okay, one more question. The last question you are going to ask now. Who is
Can
going
we
to ask?
see all outer cave?
No, so the 155 miles of cave, most of it is considered wilderness, so people don't go into it. The different areas that people crawl through and explore, they're probably only going in once a year. So there's only about 1.5 miles, I believe, that visitors are going to be able to see of the cave.
No, you couldn't understand my question. I want to see this cave outer.
Okay. From outside.
Oh, so the only part that you see from
Yes.
outside, I think is your question. Give me 1 second. Where'd it go? Is this. Otherwise, there's no evidence of there being a cave under your feet, which is pretty cool.
Okay, this is the only entrance of the cave.
Only entrance. We do have an elevator now that was blasted, but naturally occurring, this is all you see.
There's only one.
Yes, Ketki, that is the only one entrance for the cave that we can see from outside.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right,
Thanks for
guys, that's going to have to wrap up our program today, but I think I'm going to see you again tomorrow, and we're going to explore more of the surface of Wind Cave. And if you have questions tomorrow, I can certainly answer them then, okay?
Okay, thanks a lot for making these amendments actually. And see you tomorrow to explore the world just right above the cave. So students,
Yeah.
tomorrow we are going to visit the same place, but today we explored underground and tomorrow we are going to explore the on grounds.
Absolutely. All right, I'll see you all tomorrow.
Bye. Have a nice day.
Thanks, you too.
so much for my
Bye.
Bye.